Alrighty, I finally built up the courage to talk about Utopia, and let's just say this video has some interesting rabbit holes. But this show does have a special place in my heart. You might think the title is a little clickbait, but no, I stand by it 100% of the time. And I think Utopia is one of those shows that was just too creative for its own good, and its parallels to reality are kind of eerie. But sadly, it was cancelled before its story could finish. I can't think of any other show that just looks like it. Just any frame from the show just looks completely unique. I believe it was like way ahead of its time. It definitely influenced a lot of shows, and it's a really underrated gem with a great soundtrack, great cinematography, and most of all, great writing. While many shows ask us what's right and wrong, this show also asks us who could we trust. Actually, that's not entirely true. There's also themes of family and the idea of eco-fascism, asking if we deserve to live on this planet, if we're killing it. But just like climate change, we're gonna ignore that because we're gonna be talking about true events that inspired the show. But before that, I should probably explain what this show is. It's about a group of fans who use an anonymous forum page for a comic book called Utopia. It predicted so many real life events that it has to be true, kind of like The Simpsons. Our main characters are the boring Ian, the kind-hearted Becky, the weird and sympathetic Grant, and the very paranoid Wilson. That's Wilson, who's played by a ideal actor. And he's definitely the ideal actor. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can do better. A character named Bijan messages them to come together because he has the manuscript for the fabled second part of Utopia. Utopia 2 is like the Snyder Cut. You know how the Snyder Cut fans are. However, the kid steals it. Then we have Michael Dugdale, who works for the health department. He gets stuck into the network because he did some things that he's not very proud of. And the network is this spooky shadow organization that operates by blackmailing people into doing random missions. And since they never learn what they're truly doing and they don't have the full context, just because if someone gets caught, they don't know why they did what they did. And the why is the most important part. So that one person can never destroy the whole organization. They're an extremely powerful organization that can falsify government documents and can frame people for anything by planting evidence, which in turn leads to fake news. Oh yeah, they can basically kill anyone with their highly efficient hitman. So they have these two agents sent to get the manuscript, and they have a way of getting what they want. They also have this side quest. They're trying to find someone named Jessica Hyde.
Where is Jessica Hyde?
But Grant ends up with the manuscript, and our gang of ordinary people must uncover the mystery of the network. That was definitely one of the worst summaries I've ever done. I don't think I explained the show too well, but I really don't want to spoil it because the surprises of the show are genuinely incredible. Just because of how important information is in this show, when they decide to give you that information is perfectly done, in my opinion. I will say that this show does have some parallels to Attack on Titan. If you've seen the show, you'd understand. Wonder if there's any crossover. But Janus is basically their way of stopping the human race. And that's all I'm gonna say, because it's a really good show and it has one of the most perfect pilots ever. If you don't like the first episode, then you just won't like the show. It's as simple as that. By the way, if you do watch the show on Amazon Prime, make sure you watch the 2013 one, by the way. But that one on Prime is edited and has a weird aspect ratio. So yeah, I haven't seen the US version, but I heard it's bad, so gonna have to figure out some ways to find the original version. I do want to talk about what makes this show so great, and it's from how grimly it paints the world. From the second it starts, we're getting these news messages that tell you just how bad this world is. And when the network eventually describes their motivations for everything they say is completely true. This stuff may seem far-fetched, but it's all grounded in reality. It's actually so grounded in reality that in season 2, they used real-life footage from real events to make the show's points. In the first episode of season 2, the food shortages and power cuts were a real thing in the UK. They took place in the 70s, which led to the 3-day work week. This limited electricity to only be used 3 days in a week. They did this to stop a complete economic shutdown from happening. In that same episode, a character named Milner references real plane bombing. This was a real event. In 1974, there was a real plane that crashed from Tel Aviv to New York. It was found out to have a bomb in it, and there was 88 victims. Next, we see two characters standing over a bunch of coffins, and they reference the Winter of Discontent. This was a real thing that happened. It was another massive strike of the trade unions that demanded higher pays, the gravediggers, waste management people. However, in that same scene, they reference documents set from the fictional Philip Carvell to the real-life Richard Skies, who is a British ambassador to New Zealand, who then gives these documents to Ari Neves, another real-life person. Then in the show, the assistant is instructed to assassinate Richard Skies, and then this character Milner has a conversation with Ari Neves. Then later on in the episode, it cuts to real life footage of Ari Neves in a car bombing, and the whole reason it's in the show is because these two people were killed by the IRA and the INLA in real life. It's always been a conspiracy that the government did it themselves, and this show very much believes in that. But when they showed the news footage with real life car bombing, Channel 4 got into some trouble because the real life family did not like that, but they said, no, we're gonna keep the episode up, we don't care. Kinda insane. The best part is, I'm still not done. There's still more real life events, and they did all that to get Margaret Thatcher to become the prime minister. Another name that pops up a lot in conspiracy theories. The show has it all. In 1974, a partial meltdown caused a radiation leak and caused an evacuation of a nuclear power plant. All of that was just in episode 1 of season 2. There's a lot more. Like in episode 4, they reference Belzec. It's a real-life Jewish extermination camp where the goal was to end all Jews in German-occupied Poland. The show is definitely not afraid to weave in real-life events to make its narrative. I'm not really going to talk about the ethics of citing and even showing real-life news footage of car bombings and stuff. It's definitely something to think about. It's kind of crazy that they decided, you know what, we want to write real-life fan fiction about real people. But the question a lot of people ask is, where does the fiction start and end? When does right become wrong? Well, I'll tell you, in season 2, because there was never a season 3. Now, why was the show canceled? Maybe they're trying to hide something from us. I mean, it was because of low viewership, and actually, Amazon Prime came out of nowhere to make an American version of the show, and that was canceled after 1 season. Could just be trying to hide something. But we don't have to imagine a world with Janus, because Children of Men exists. It's a movie that takes place in fictional, futuristic London, UK, whatever. And in this movie, the fertility rate is completely 0. No one's having kids. It's very depressing, and it kind of shows us how the world would be if their plan goes through. But it's also more relevant than ever. Well, this is clearly fiction. Could it be our future? Dun dun dun. I mean, with the constant declining fertility rates, it's not as insane as it sounds. Then again, the film takes place in 2027, so probably not too likely. And taking off the tinfoil hat for a second, in 2021 we did have a small uptick in fertility rates. So I think maybe one day things will go back to normal, hopefully. Keyword hope. Or, immigration will save us. But you might be asking yourself, in 2021, why did that tick happen? I think I have the answer. The man, the myth, the legend, Andrew Tate. Just listen to his unrefutable logic.
Would you rather have sex with a transsexual, which is a legitimate 10, or a woman, which is a legitimate 1? And everyone's sitting there clicking woman, 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 because they think they're going to be gay if they do anything else. But they're not actually thinking about the question. I am so smart. I operate on so many levels higher than the average man. You people are not thinking about the question. When I say a 1 and a 10, I mean Megan Fox with a dick. That's the tranny. Or Hulk Hogan with a pussy. That's the girl. You're gonna fuck Hulk Hogan? Okay, there's a pussy, but he's got mustache and muscles and shit. He's all hairy, big dude, 6'5". It's pretty gay to me. That sounds pretty gay. I don't care if it's a pussy. That is gay. Whereas Megan Fox, okay, he's got a dick, but maybe you can scoot it out the way. I'm still Megan Fox. You know what I'm saying? At least she's small and shit. You can get your hand around her neck, mess her up. You ain't messing up Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's gonna mess you up. So this is the question I'm asking. You need to operate on a higher plane. Think about this. This is important.
Okay, now that might not fix the fertility rate, but trust me, this is the man to save the youth, because he exposed that we're all living in the Matrix. Hear me out, telling us that the media machine, riddled with fake news, has an endless desire for profits and pits us against each other for meaningless disagreements, which in turn shapes our reality as we know it. So what can you do about it? You can join Andrew Tate's brand new program for the low price of $49.99. And if you act fast, you can get a discount on your 12-month subscription. Taxes and fees not included, limited supplies available. Alright, well, I do think some of these male influencers occasionally say positive things from time to time. They'll only say whatever generates clicks, whatever generates headlines, and all that. So people need to learn to separate the good from the bad. However, dick riding should never be tolerated, so never just listen to one person. I don't know, just my 2 cents. Great time to tell you, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember when this video was about Utopia? Let's get back to that before I'm outed as an agent of the Matrix. I want to talk about the eco-fascism. That's a fundamental part of the show. And some people might roll their eyes and think these ideas are insane, but there's some people who genuinely believe in this stuff. r/antinatalism is a subreddit that believes having children is morally wrong and cannot be justified. And it's not a small subreddit. It has over 200,000 people and it's growing. They recently were mad at YouTuber PewDiePie for having a child. They saw this image and were very disgusted, and a lot of their reasoning is the same exact reasoning in the show. So this video is taking me to some weird places, bro. How did I end up here? Alright, I think I'm gonna relax on all the crazy subjects and all the jokes and stuff, minor lies. I didn't really talk about the point of Utopia and the point of Children of Men. While they're both very bleak pieces of media, you end up with a sense of hope in the world. This quote summarizes how I feel about it perfectly. I found myself entertaining delusionary hope for the human race. By the end, I painted myself into a corner of morbid optimism. It's kind of like when you're watching a movie and you're rooting for the character to win, but you have no idea how he's going to pull it off, but you just know he's going to win. My next point could be taken out of context, but I believe that we overly focus on what's going wrong with the world and we never see how much progress we made, like climate change. And I want to preface this next part very clear. I'm not saying that climate change isn't real or that it's not going to get a lot worse, because it definitely is. But I feel like we overly focus on what's going wrong in the world and not what's going good. Headlines that say the world's going to end get clicks, happy ones don't. Good news doesn't generate news the way bad news does. So I did want to show you some of the progress humanity has made recently. The US reduced the amount of coal plants it uses dramatically from 2005 to 2022. And remember how the ozone layer was rapidly shrinking? It's now only slowly shrinking. It's a lot better than it used to be. Okay, not a big deal. But in the year 2000, we only predicted in 2020 we'd only generate 20 gigawatts per hour. But today we generate over 650 gigawatts per hour. And that number is constantly rising. Also, private investors are quite literally investing so much into green technology. That's because there's a potential 400% return on investment in the next 10 years. But most of you are thinking, doesn't most of the pollution come from really big corporations? And yes, but the question is, who buys from all these companies? We do. We can't just remove responsibility from ourselves. We also don't have all the solutions. We still don't know what to do with all the plastic waste. What I'm saying is, the more we do to fix the things that we can control, the more time we'll have to find new solutions for the world. So we could sit around having pointless arguments, getting too depressed to even want to be alive, or we can create the world we want to live in. I don't think I explained myself that well. So what was that quote? Never back down, never what?
Never back down, never what? Never give up!
But what do I know? I'm just a cartoon. This cartoon would like to thank you for watching. He'd also appreciate it if you subscribed. That's it. Just subscribe. Nothing else. And yeah, bye.